Okay, so I just wanted to quickly make another one of these videos before the weekend is done because the holidays are coming up, so I'm not going to have too much time after today to do other things in learning Odin. So I just quickly wanted to have a go at learning how to get stuff from how to get time, how to get the system clock and do a few things with it. See if it's easy, if it's hard, if it's as verbose as when you're trying to get it in C++ when you're using the Chronos header file. Turns out in Odin it is very nice and very easy. You can get it in literally a single line of code. It's fantastic. So package main, because everything needs a package. Then we're gonna import. We are going to import two things from core. We are first going to import FMT so we can actually print it to the console and see what's happening. And then we want time from it so we can actually use the procedures that are found in this package over here. I'm just going to quickly go through it in this video. I'm going to go back after the new year and go more in depth into this library. So, right, we need the main procedure, because everything needs a main procedure in one of these compiled languages, so the operating system knows where we're starting from. And then literally, if you just want to get the time and then print it out to screen, and you don't particularly care too much about the formatting of it, if you just do this time.now, this should, as you can see all my failed attempts up here, I'm going to clear that off the screen. See all my practice attempt to get this working. But yeah, just like that, it's great. It prints it out in Unix time, so if you're not familiar with Unix time, again, I'm going to go into it in other videos, but if I look for time, if I look for now returns a time. If I click on it here, you can see this is kind of the representation of Unix time. Again, not going to go into it too much in this video, but you can look into that more if you're not familiar with working in times. In programming, it's actually quite an interesting topic. How do you accurately record time? Where do you start the recording from? Data is finite. You can only store so many bits inside of a few bytes. So then where do you declare your endpoint? It's an interesting thing to look into if you've never done it before. But another quick thing is how to actually, get a starting point and end point and see how much time has passed in your code. You could use this as a rough way of measuring the performance of your code. I wouldn't recommend this as the primary way. I can't say for certain how accurately this now procedure is returning the time. I'm going to assume off the top of my head, knowing what I know about programming, it's going to be at least within the order of microsecond precisions, possibly, definitely within the milliseconds. And if you're just looking to get a rough gauge of how many milliseconds have passed, that's a level of accuracy you're going for, this is an alright way to do it. It is reading the system clock. If you've never learned much about time and computers, what you need to know about system clocks is they tend to be very cheap parts. They are unreliable. They are not the most accurate things, so your readings can vary. But for most parts, if you just want a rough guess at how much time has passed, this little method right here is a nice and quick way to see it. So the first thing we need is a starting point. We'll just have some object, and we're going to say it is time.now. So it's getting the system clock reading at that particular moment of time. Then we just need to do something, have something actually happen. We're going to, bullshit something for now. So we're just going to say for I in 0 to... let's go 10,000. That should actually make enough time to pass. Yeah, let's just go 1,000. That should be at least a couple of milliseconds, I reckon. fmt.println, and then we're going to pass in some random just junk text. Just print this text out to the console. This is, simulating some procedure calls throughout your code. And then we need the endpoint. So time.now. So now we have two timestamps. We have the start point and the endpoint. Then there is a procedure inside of the time package called diff. As you can see, all it does, it takes the start time and end time and returns a duration. A duration is a distinct version of an integer. There's one nice thing about using this duration in the format functions that you find in the format package, that unlike printing out a regular integer, the actual print procedures see that it is a duration and they format it quite nicely for us. Just the same way that the time was formatted quite nicely in its kind of long Unix time when we printed out earlier on. We do fmt.println again, and then we do the time.diff, and then we pass in our start time and our end time, and then we hope that I've not typed anything wrong, but that does tend to happen. There we go. We can see, and we can see down here that even though it's an integer that we passed into it, the duration was just a distinct integer. Because Odin is set up in such a way it knows what duration is already, it formatted us quite nicely down here. Instead of saying whatever the binary representation of that time would have been in nanosecond intervals, that would have been well into the millions, I imagine. It's put 3 milliseconds have passed. So if we add a few more, zeros on the end of that, we could probably increase it to show what happens when a few, actual seconds pass. So let's go 1, 2, 3. Let's do that many times. That should let a second or two pass. Odin.run, just going to print that out how many times, and there, half a second passed, 4.da milliseconds. So that's a very nice, quick, convenient way to get a rough idea of how much time is passing between sections of your code. Again, if you're new to programming and you're just kind of following along, don't use this if you're trying to get accurate measurements of code and how long things are taken in your program. This is not necessarily the best way to do it. There are certain things that can go on in the background with the operating system and stuff. There are other clocks built into your computer, into the CPU, that are monotonic. They do not drift as much. Yeah, use one of them instead. Do a bit more research into. I'm going to go more into it in later videos as well because I'm looking at the time package now inside of Odin myself. But yeah, if you just want a rough idea, this is a great way to do that. Also, if you wanted the time as we printed out earlier on, but you didn't want it in that big verbose Unixy way that I got printed out, where it had the dates and the hours and the minutes and then the extra additions to it, there are procedures inside of here called toString. It takes in a time and then it passes a string back to us. So if we just look at this one, toString, give us the days, the month, and the year, if that's what we're interested in. And you can see it kind of works like the other bprint functions where we give it a buffer because it's not heap allocated, it's allocated on the stack. Or at least it needs to know where that memory already exists before we call it. I'm certain the slice could exist on the heap if we wanted it to. So we give it time, we give it some buffer, and then it's going to return a string to us. So let's quickly demonstrate that working. And that'll be the last thing I do in this video. I was just wanting to, make a quick one last video before the weekend is done. And I also wanted to see how time works. So we have our starting point, a little timestamp right there. So if we were to do to string, always missing that R off, always making spelling mistakes. To get the big long year version. And then the second parameter, I believe it was the actual string itself. And then we need to pass in the buffer. I don't know how big the string is going to be, so I'm just going to give it 100 bytes of data. So 100 U8, and then we need to pass this buffer in as a slice. Just double check that that's the first or second. It is the second parameter. So we'll go buffer, and then we will pass it in as a slice down there. We'll also remember that we are wanting to make a string out of this so we can print it out. And then down below, fmt.println, we should print out string, and we can see if I can type correctly or not. So I'll just clear this now. And then we'll run this one last time. Type that command out properly. Run.odin. And there you go. I'm not sure why I'm getting 11. I have to look back into that. Why am I getting 11 there? But you can see it's the 14th of the 12th, 2025. And that is the actual date that I'm making this video. Oof, almost Christmas. Why am I getting that 11? Have I added extra lines of code to this? Odin. NVim. Oh, because I'm doing it here. I'm doing it there. I'm printing it out. Oh, that's weird. Why did I do it that way? Yes. So there's an interesting thing you can do. So print actually returns an integer to you, if you notice what I did there. So I actually called the print function, which calls this other procedure inside of it. So this procedure ran, it got printed to the screen, and then print new line actually returns an integer value, and that integer got passed into the string. So the string wasn't a string there, it was actually it was an integer. Also interesting note is that you don't actually need to, if you're just trying to print out the time right there, I didn't realize, but again, if you just pass in this procedure and it returns the string to it, it works perfectly fine. You didn't actually need to allocate a string to it. So that's interesting. Yeah, this should just work. There you go. There's the date. Yeah, that's just a quick demonstration of how easy it is to work with time inside of Odin. When in regards to the system clock, I've not looked into the other ways of working with time just yet. And yeah, just a quick example. There's how you get system clock. A rough gauge of how much time has passed between code sections. And if you just want to, get the date or get the actual minutes, second, hours, which you can see if you just look at a few more of these. Let's go to the top. Procedures. Yeah, you can see here if you just wanted the minutes, the seconds, and hours, There's this one down here that would do something like that. And I think there's a few other ways of getting it. So time to string, how is millisecond, yeah. So yeah, that's it. I'm done with this one now. That was just my quick demonstration. And yeah, see you later. Probably is in the new year.